It's Friday. We love Fridays because Friday is the day we get to do civil procedure. And also it's Labor Day weekend, right? So you get an extra day off for Labor Day for the same reason that you'd have a weekend in the first place, which under Eisenbach is what?
It's the benefit of what the labor movement has brought to society from early 1900s.
The Great American Labor Movement. Speaking of the Great American Labor Movement, this is what's happening in the world around you. The Bevin administration, it's not appropriate. The Bevin administration has filed a motion to remove the judge. Can you file a motion to remove a judge? Sure you can, because you're limited only by your imagination and what you can ask the court for, okay? And how mad you think you're going to make the judge, or not in this case, right? So he's made a motion to remove the judge over liking something on Facebook. I will tell you that this motion is unlikely to be granted, in my opinion. And I'm certain that Bevin's counsel knows this. He's a very smart lawyer. Why would you make a motion like that, knowing that it's unlikely to be granted? Yes? Yeah. Yeah. We want to bring it up to the appellate court, right? I was thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. And what's the PR value in making a motion like that? Now you can say everything that the judge does that's against you from that point on is because the judge was biased against you, which, if you're making a motion to have them removed because of something they liked on Facebook, may actually be true. All right, let's talk motions to dismiss. Okay? 12B motions specifically, but we'll get into the other letters too. This is easy, right? Simple. Simple. As usual, the reading kind of makes it a little more complicated than it has to be. When you get out into the real world and you start doing this stuff, it's pretty simple, right? You're the defendant. We're going to have our defendant's hat on for a couple of class sessions. You're the defense lawyer. You get served with a lawsuit. And you start thinking, as good defense lawyers do, how do I get rid of this case? How do I win this thing? Well, you can win at trial. That's good. If you want to cost your client a couple of, $50,000, $60,000. Take it all the way to trial, win a trial. You can win a motion for summary judgment. It usually happens after you go through all your discovery. You've taken 50 depositions, responded to written discovery, gone through all your pretrial stuff maybe, so on and so forth, right? And at the end of a summary judgment motion, you say, plaintiff doesn't have the proof that they need to take this case to trial. Judge says, yes, I agree with you, you win the case. Or, the quick way out, the motion to dismiss under Rule 12. Everybody understands the difference between those things? We're going to talk a lot more about summary judgments before you get done with this semester. Right? Welcome.
Hi.
When you make a motion to dismiss, you're saying that there's some sort of legal deficiency in the plaintiff's case. Okay? There's something wrong with it. And that thing that is wrong with it is so wrong that the whole case has got to go. Right? The whole case has got to go. And what that requires you to do is to play on the plaintiff's turf. Your defense counsel, you have to accept the facts as pleaded by the plaintiff. To an extent, you have to do that with a motion for summary judgment too, which we'll see. But you're really stuck with plaintiff's facts on a motion to dismiss. And what you have to say in a motion to dismiss is that even if everything that plaintiff says is absolutely 100% true, still there's something that allows me to win this case. Right off the bat. Okay? That's the motion to dismiss. The motion to dismiss says, here is that thing. Here is my legal argument as to why everything that guy just said is bullshit, right? The motion for summary judgment, the way to think about that as compared to a motion to dismiss is that usually this happens after your discovery period, right? Like we said. And so what you're saying is, here's all the facts, Judge, that we came up with in discovery. And under those facts, and the applicable law, of course, the plaintiff can't win their case for some reason. Standard is, for those of you that have worked on this before, and I'm jumping ahead, but the standard on a motion for summary judgment is that there is no genuine issue of material fact for a jury to decide. Okay. All the issues of fact that could have been decided by a jury have come out in discovery. Here they are. Just so happens that they favor the defendant, and you should toss this case. Okay. That's your motion for summary judgment. Trial. Well, I've got this version of the facts, and there's a competing version of the facts from the other side, and they're both fine choices, but we're going to convince a jury that our version of the facts is the correct one. You see how it's different? Kinda, sorta. We'll get more into it as we go, especially with the summary judgment stuff. Because you'll probably spend a lot of your clerking life and your early lawyer life, and if my career is any indication, your late lawyer life, responding to motions for summary judgment and responding to motions to dismiss. After you've done that a few times, you'll understand it. Okay. What goes into your motion to dismiss? And served with a complaint, I'm going to file this motion to dismiss. What can I put in it? Well, the easiest thing you can do is go over and look at this laundry list that's been helpfully provided for you in the rules of civil procedure, specifically in Rule 12b, right? Every defense to a claim for relief in any pleading must be asserted in the response to pleading if one is required, meaning put all the stuff in your answer that you can think of. Right? That's the plain English for that. But a party may assert the following defenses in the motion. Lack of subject matter jurisdiction. You know what that is, right? If you were paying any attention last semester, you know what that means. What are you saying when you're saying there's lack of subject matter jurisdiction in the case? Yeah.
That it shouldn't be heard.
This court can't hear it for some reason. Right? The court doesn't have jurisdiction over it because the court doesn't deal with the kind of thing that this is. Bonehead, you filed your bankruptcy case in the state court. Okay? State courts don't have subject matter jurisdiction over bankruptcy actions, therefore, move to dismiss. Talk about that more in a minute. Lack of personal jurisdiction, same kind of thing. The proper venue, insufficient process, insufficient service of process. Jump up to failure to join a party under Rule 19, which you very rarely ever see in the wild, although I think I provided you an example of that. And the catch-all, right? 12b-6, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. And that's probably how you ought to look at 12b-6. It's a catch-all, right? If you can't think of any other ground under 12b that applies, it's probably 12b-6, right? Classic example being, well, a classic, I say, since about 2010. Classic example being an Iqbal motion, an Iqbal/Twombly motion, right? What are we saying in Iqbal? In Iqbal motion to dismiss, you're saying that there's been a failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted because the plaintiff hasn't set forth a plausible claim for relief. Right? Everybody got that? Clear as mud? It's on my bingo card. All right. So most of the kind of motions you're going to be making, if, God forbid, you end up being civil defense counsel, are 12b-6 motions, okay? Let's see. So bars to recovery, like absolute bars to plaintiff being able to recover. For example, the statute of limitations is already run, okay? This statute of limitations ran 5 years ago. Plaintiff is an idiot. Therefore, a motion to dismiss. 12b-6, statute of limitations is an absolute bar. Absolute immunity. Say, for example, if you sued the governor, right? You sued the governor for common law tort, or even a statutory cause of action for which there's no waiver of immunity. Our courts, in their infinite wisdom, have said that governors in most states have absolute executive immunity. You don't get to sue the governor. Okay. You're like, well, we just saw a news story where the governor was being sued. That's different. But beyond the scope of this class. Motion to dismiss based on immunity, at least absolute immunity, something that doesn't require any factual proof whatsoever. It's a good example of that kind of thing. If I'm the governor, I'm going to say, look, everything that the plaintiff said in their complaint, let's assume that it's perfectly true. Fine. But I get immunity. Right? I get immunity. Therefore, the case must be dismissed. Don't make me defend this thing. It's stupid. Jury can't award any money against me. Think, for example, here, and then we talked about plausibility, but think of these examples, right? The plaintiff pleads intentional infliction of emotional distress, but fails to plead that the defendant suffered severe emotional distress. Is that enough for you to file a 12b-6 motion?
If severe emotional distress is an element, then yeah.
Let's assume that it's an element. I think so. I think so. The plaintiff doesn't say why venue is proper in the court that it was filed in. Is that enough to file a 12b-6? Or a 12b motion? It falls under one of those categories. Sort of. What do we think? Yeah, you could. You could. More often than not, you're talking about a strategic decision with these things. Okay? You're talking about a strategic decision, not whether or not you can. Because again, under 12b6, just about anything will fit under that, especially when you consider Iqbal and Twombly. As plaintiff's counsel, are you going to get hit with motions all the time under Iqbal and Twombly, no matter how complete and how thorough your complaint is?
Yes.
That says, well, in this one paragraph on page 75 of plaintiff's complaint, they don't state a plausible claim for relief. Yes, of course, you're going to get that kind of stuff all the time. So you have to think, how critical is the defect? You really think, and again, the first rule of civil procedure is, know thy judge. In this court, do you think that your motion to dismiss is going to be looked upon favorably? That really is the big consideration here. And then if you make your motion to dismiss, what good is it going to do you in the context of the overall litigation? Are you really going to win because you made that motion to dismiss? What do you win except for a very large bill for your client? Maybe enough for you. I don't know. Go ahead.
Are you saying in the second bullet point that those legal bars are bars to like 12b6 motion specifically?
Yeah. Yeah, you can make a 12b6 case. And the first two are more or less unusual, but the plausibility one comes up all the time. Okay. And remember, because we know this because of what, 2 classes ago? Last class? I don't remember, all the days are running together. We know that the plaintiff can amend as a matter of course. So you file that motion to dismiss if you're still within the statute of limitations. Even if you're not still within the statute of limitations, unless you think that the plaintiff doesn't have a very good shot at getting their amendment through, it really makes sense to me. Now, in some cases, it sure does.
I have a question.
Yes?
If a motion to dismiss causes the plaintiff to go past the statute of limitations, I mean, is that something that is up to the judge as far as like taking that into account if that's what happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, okay. In theory, right, you file a motion to dismiss, you're defense counsel, you file a motion to dismiss, you're just beyond the statute of limitations. The judge is considering your motion to dismiss, and in the meantime, you receive a first amended complaint, right? That amended complaint should operate as a matter of right if you're within that 21-day time period prescribed by Rule 15, right? If you don't get that amendment, though, you won't, right? There's no amendment as a matter of course, or for some reason the plaintiff has already amended once and can't amend as a matter of course. The judge, you look at that. The judge rather is looking at that motion to dismiss and considering it. If the judge grants a motion to dismiss, even without prejudice to a refiling, the plaintiff then can't refile because of the statute of limitations. Does that make sense? Everybody follow that? Kind of? Sort of? So again, a lot of this depends on how mean you think the judge is. And again, I think there's a passage in your book that says, under Iqbal and Twombly, when we talked about our pleading standards, there's a passage in your book that says the judge is not likely to just throw out a case on a motion to dismiss under the plausibility standard without giving the plaintiff an opportunity within the context of that case to refile the complaint, right? That is not my experience. And the judge it depends on where you are, it depends on who you're in front of. But can the judge get a motion to dismiss and then toss the whole thing, leaving you high and dry beyond the statute of limitations? Sure. Sure. All right, when do you file this? Well, a defendant, you probably want to get on it as soon as possible. But as we've said, there's strategic considerations there too. Certain of these defenses can be waived by participating in the litigation, and certain ones can't. Okay? Party waives any defense listed in Rule 12b 2 to 5. Notice what's missing from that is 12b 6, which can sort of be raised anytime, but we'll talk about that. If you don't make your defenses under Rule 12b 2 to 5, the enumerated defenses that are there, in a motion, right, or, and this is a big or, in a responsive pleading, so your defenses that are laid out there, if you make them in your answer, most of the time you're probably going to be okay. Most of the time. Right, but say if you, for example, raise insufficient service of process in your answer, you think, it's cool, I'll deal with that later. And then you go on to participate in discovery and to participate in depositions and to hire experts and do the kind of things that you do in civil litigation. Well, there's pretty good case law on that says you've waived that service of process issue, okay? So you lose that. You probably want to assert it kind of early on, even if you got it raised in your answer, right? Now, subject matter jurisdiction is a notable exception here. You can raise subject matter jurisdiction anytime. Anytime. Okay? So you've been litigating a case for 10 years, you're now on your third trip to the Court of Appeals, and all of a sudden you realize, wait, the court doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction, and never did, ever, at any time during the last 10 years. You raise that by motion, by then the judge is sick of seeing you and says, yes, that's right, no subject matter jurisdiction. Goodbye, case that's been here for 10 years. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Subject matter jurisdiction can be raised at any time and can never be waived, ever. Don't be surprised if you see a question about that on your final exam. Now, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. You can't raise that at the appellate court. Okay? That's not like subject matter jurisdiction. Can you raise it at any time up to and including trial? Yeah, kind of, right? But don't. Don't. You can make that argument. You can make that argument at trial with a straight face, and maybe sometimes you'll be able to. I think in most cases, you're not going to wait until the last minute. You've been litigating this case for 2 years and say, wait, hold on. I know we're in day 3 of trial, Your Honor, but the plaintiff has failed to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. I don't think that the judge is going to look upon that very favorably, right? Unless they really like you and don't really like your opponent.
Could it also be an appeal strategy?
No. You have to raise it in the lower court, right? It's not like subject matter jurisdiction. Oh, you're saying, can you go to the Court of Appeals and say, hey, I raised this at trial? Yes, you can do that, yeah, for sure. Yeah. You want to preserve anything you can. It's got to be raised at the lower court, though. That's the important thing to take away. Ryan, yes?
Yeah, I was just thinking, would it be possible to use that as a strategy to let the statute of limitations run out? Like, is that too sneaky?
No, you could.
Yeah.
You could. We're talking about defense counsel. There's no such thing as too sneaky.
This is why lawyers don't have a reputation.
I'll bring you guys some defense counsel, and they'll roast me. They'll slowly roast me while I sit here. Fine. Okay. But yeah, I mean, that touches on this last point here too. Does it make more sense to wait to raise these claims that you've got for a summary judgment? If you think that the judge is unlikely to dismiss right off the bat without doing a little bit of discovery, raise your defenses in your answer, and there's nothing in the world that stops you from bringing up that same stuff, including insufficient service of process, by the way, in your motion for summary judgment. And will there be a motion for if you're defense counsel, will there be a motion for summary judgment before you get to trial? Oh, yes. Yes, there will. I'm trying to think of cases I've seen, civil cases in my entire career, where there haven't been a motion for summary judgment before trial. I can think of very few. I think I skipped over one. I guess not. Oh no, here it is. Just think about this. You're plaintiff's counsel. No, I told you to have your defense hat on. Old habits die hard. The defendant makes a motion to dismiss and argues an issue of fact. Right? Argues an issue of fact. So, for example, the defendant moves to dismiss your breach of contract case, saying, okay, cool, but what the plaintiff forgot to tell you is that we never had an agreement on the essential terms. There was never a meeting of the minds here, and therefore, you should dismiss this case. They can't sue me for breach of contract. What can you do? How do you respond to this motion to dismiss? First of all, is it a properly made motion to dismiss? Go ahead.
I want to say no because I'm questioning, like, isn't that something that could be better answered after discovery?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Right? That's how I would answer it. That's how I would answer it. Can you make a motion to strike their motion to dismiss? Yeah, but then you look kind of petty. Right?
So what is the answer?
You respond to the motion to dismiss. There can be many answers, right? I think the answer is respond to the motion to dismiss and say, look, that's an issue for discovery. It's an issue for discovery. Are you going to get a bunch of motions to dismiss that are grounded in some sort of fact that the defendant hopes you're not going to have to prove in discovery? You're not going to have to hash out in discovery? For sure. Is it to the defendant's best interest to short circuit the litigation before you ever even get to discovery? For sure. Yeah, Mark.
Why would striking be petty?
I mean, granted, there is no such thing as petty for some practitioners. But, no, I think, it depends on who you're in front of. It depends on who you're in front of. It really does. I think a motion to strike, in my experience, is generally not looked upon favorably. It's like, just answer the motion to dismiss, counsel, because then you're making extra work for the judge. They don't like that. They got a lot of work to do as it is. So very often the response to these motions to dismiss is, we got to do discovery on that. We get to prove this. That's an issue of fact. Yeah.
Will you just be able to respond to that and say we're just leaving the alternative?
Well, that's where I'm going with the next one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that. Plaintiff's counsel, defendant makes a motion to dismiss and argues you can't prove the injury was due to negligence and an intentional tort. You got a negligent action and an intentionally tortious action coming out of the same course of conduct? How can you do that? You got to dismiss at least some of that, judge. And your response is? Pleading the alternative. That's right. Yeah. You can do that, remember? Remember, you drafted a complaint. Right? So you guys are pros at this. You can plead under the rules in the alternative. defense counsel knows that, but you get that motion anyway? Maybe. You're the judge. Defendant files a motion to dismiss. You like two of the plaintiff's claims. The third one, you think for some reason has got to go. Plausibility, statute of limitations, whatever. Does the judge then throw out the whole case? Is that what the judge has to do under Rule 12?
He can do all sorts of stuff. He can say that in part he's, well, he can send it back down for the defense or the plaintiff, whoever has the faulty pleading to resubmit it to counsel.
Yeah, to amend it. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, the judge can pretty much do whatever, right? So the judge can say, I don't like that one claim, so that one's not going forward. You're not doing discovery on that one claim. The other two, go ahead. Let's see what happens. Defendant, you've got to answer those other two claims. Okay? File your answer. Then such and such time. This one claim is gone. Now, as plaintiff's counsel, do you then have to turn around and amend your complaint? Do you need to file an amended complaint to reflect the judge's ruling on the motion to dismiss? Think about that one, take into account the Rule 15 stuff, and look 3 or 4 steps ahead. Everybody get where I am with this, right? Understand what's happened up to this point. Judge grants a motion to dismiss in part and denies in part. Do you have to reflect your complaint? I'm sorry, do you have to amend your complaint to reflect the judge's ruling? Yes?
Would you keep it, or would you want it for appeal?
Yeah, because if you file an amended complaint, what does that mean? It's going to do what? Under Rule 15. It's going to supersede the prior pleading. It's going to relate back to the time that you filed it, the original complaint, and it's going to be like you waived that claim. So if you want it for appeal, you don't do that. Okay? Just keep right on going. Now, if it's a defect in form or a defect in plausibility where you think you can state the claim a little more clearly, something like that, that's different, right? Then you can file your amended complaint that fixes the defect, but you don't have to lay down on the claim, right? The judge dismisses a claim because of plausibility. You can file an amended complaint that says, okay, here's a more plausible way of stating it, Your Honor. And sorry, I'm still going to dismiss it because I think it's deficient for one reason or another. Like, okay, well, I respectfully disagree, and we'll take it up with the Court of Appeals. Somebody had a hand up.
Ryan, you answered it. So
Okay.
I was wondering what the language looked like when they dismissed it repeatedly, and you still want to include it, like, or you just continue to include it, even though you like.
It depends. Yeah. Do it however you can do it without getting too cross-eyed with the judge. Rule 12, E and F, I mean, again, there's appropriate times to use that stuff. The motions for a more definite statement, the motions to strike, but usually not, right? Usually not. If you have a pro se, if you're defending a case and there's a pro se plaintiff that has just filed a whole bunch of gobbledygook and you really want to make their lives more complicated, I mean, file one of those, right? If it's truly annoying and deficient, and it's filed by opposing counsel, I guess you could. Why not just file a motion to dismiss? Under Rule 12 E and F, you're not asking for the case to be dismissed. just asking for something else to be filed. Why not just ask for the case to be dismissed? All right, here's your problem. You get this one figured out? Easy, right? Plaintiff sues defendant for fraud. Defendant answers. Defendant's answer has a counterclaim. Counterclaim says, you libeled me in your original complaint. Can you libel somebody in a complaint? Most jurisdictions, no. I have to think in all jurisdictions, no. I don't know of one where you can do that. Can't do that. That's not libel. But will you still see in the wild people suing each other over defamation arising exclusively out of court actions? Oh, sure. Sure. It's really fun out there. Will you get calls to your cell phone in the middle of the night? People that want to sue someone for suing them? Sure. So, assuming that that's deficient, that counterclaim is deficient, what does the plaintiff do? Simple, it's the thing we've been talking about all day long. Yeah. Huh? Why not? Right? Why not? Anything in the rule that would stop you from filing a 12b6 motion in response to a counterclaim? A counterclaim is basically like a complaint that you have to answer anyway. Why not? Move to dismiss the counterclaim. If you do not move to dismiss the counterclaim under those circumstances, I mean, that's close to malpractice.
Well, so, well, I had a question, like, if it really, he can't do that, so if the plaintiff didn't, I thought, well, couldn't the judge just on their own say, no?
Yeah.
Like, is it really malpractice, because it won't succeed?
Well, let me think about that. How does that play out if you don't move to dismiss this thing, and you don't move for summary judgment, and you don't raise it at trial, and you don't do anything with that claim? Okay. I think maybe, as long as you raise failure to state a claim for relief upon which, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, as long as you raise that in your answer to the counterclaim, I guess you could bring it up sometime later. But does the judge have to bring that up sua sponte? I don't think so. I don't think so. Right? Deficient though it may be, if you don't at some point say, this is deficient, and goes all the way through trial, and you get stung for that, I think you probably waived it for purposes of appeal. I don't think the judge has a responsibility to get rid of that, so it's fine. Okay, any other questions on that? Now, here's what we're going to do. Get in the same groups that you were in when you drafted the complaint. Remember what those are? Yeah? Maybe, kind of. There were 4 or 5 of you in a group. You drafted a complaint. That complaint, I promise you, is deficient in some way. And that's okay. Or maybe not. We'll see. Take that complaint, find another group, serve that complaint on that group, okay? As soon as you are served with a complaint, you are now the defendant, right? I don't care what court you drafted for. But draft a motion to dismiss the other group's complaint. 12B something, motion to dismiss the other group's complaint. Okay? If you can base it on a real deficiency, I would like that. It must be real Rule 12 grounds, right? You can't just make up your own Rule 12 grounds.
But there's other ones not included.
What?
What about the ones not included?
What do you mean the one that's not included?
Talking about the ones not listed.
One's not listed in what? Okay. Alright, so do this, but wait, don't start doing it yet because I have other stuff to tell you. Wait. Trust me, you want this information, okay? Alright, so. If you're totally lost, right? Hey, shut up. Just a minute. I know you're very anxious to get started on this. Look at a couple of these, okay? With me, real quick. The stuff that I shared with you on Blackboard. This is a memorandum of law in support of the defendant's motion to dismiss, filed in the Maryland court. They all kind of look the same. In some places, you'll see this is a motion with a memorandum attached. Okay, fine. That's kind of the format you'll see in most of the federal courts. Check your local rules. You don't necessarily need to do it for this exercise. I just want to see that you get how to file a 12B6 motion, right? Or how to draft a 12B6 motion, 12B motion of some kind at least, right? If you go through like something like this, right? There's been a separately filed motion, document 30. This is an attachment to document 30, which is document 30-1. Sort of interpreting some of the stuff that goes on at the top. You don't need to worry about that too much. If you want to just draft up the memorandum, that's fine. Do you need to have a table of contents? No. Right. Table of authorities? No. In many places, they will tell you you have to do this, like over in the Southern District of Indiana, for example. If you go over 35 pages, you've got to have a table of contents, table of authorities, all that stuff. Right. Most of the time, you don't got to have that. Right. Introduction. This breaks it down. First, plaintiffs lack standing. Have you guys done standing in common law? Know about that? Doesn't matter. Second, plaintiff's claim should be dismissed for lack of ripeness. What about ripeness mootness? We talked about that in your common law class.
No.
Okay, well, doesn't matter. These are 12B6 grounds, okay? Plaintiff, if everything they say is true, they lack standing, and so under the Constitution, they can't bring this claim. Plaintiff's claim should be dismissed for lack of ripeness. Same idea. Plaintiff's complaint fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. It should be fairly familiar language to you by now. And most of these examples that I put up on the board, on Blackboard rather, are going to have that kind of language in it, right? Motion to dismiss, verify complaint in part. Do you have to be that specific with your heading? No, not necessarily. You can just call it a motion to dismiss. Preliminary statement lays out all the reasons. You don't necessarily have to have any of this formatting at all, right? Unless it's required by a local rule, none of this all this formatting is individual stylistic stuff, okay? So find a style of these things that you like and do it that way. Statement of facts. Facts established, blah, blah, blah. Argument, standard of review. It's the standard of review on a motion to dismiss, which cites to Twombly, right? Plausibility, and Iqbal, right? See that a lot. Hostile work environment claim must be dismissed because she has pleaded no facts plausibly supporting such a claim. Typical 12B6, Iqbal, Twombly type of stuff. Would you do that to your opponent's complaint? Sure, why not? There may be other deficiencies too. I don't know. How do I go and find, you guys want to see something cool? How do you become the hero of your law firm? heroin as the case may be. Well, remember your old pals, Lexus and Westlaw? Let's see, motion to dismiss. Oh, and just for fun, we'll put Nick Ball in there. Now, you can draft up one of these things from scratch if you want. If you're just up for that kind of fun, don't have anything else to do. Or, rather than reinventing the wheel, right, why not go down here to trial court documents? Right? And then maybe, just so we have the latest case law, sort by date. And look at all this cool stuff that's available to you. Defendant Howard University's motion to dismiss plaintiff's second amendment complaint. These are actual motions to dismiss that have been filed in various courts all over the country. Right? You know you can do this, right? Get in, pull the stuff out of there, especially the legal standards that you want to have in your motion. Plop it right into your motion. Make sure that you haven't cut and paste, like party names, stuff like that. But there's a bunch of stuff here. You see how I got there? You use this sort of thing in your work with your law firm over the summer or whenever? Sure. Find stuff that's been filed by good lawyers, though, and not boneheads. Because you'll find both in here. Response to memorandum in opposition to defendant's Allstate motion for partial dismissal. If you're filing a motion to dismiss, make sure you're not coming in here and looking at a response and memorandum in opposition to a motion to dismiss. Or a reply, that's different. Everybody get that? Yes? Is this helpful at all? Hopefully? All right. We'll just slide back up. Get drafting. If you need help finding your complaint